I see an Africa that is an amazing continent, an Africa that is just ready to take off, but more importantly, an Africa that must be built by its children. So my wishes for Africa is to see the unity between Africans on the continent and those in the diaspora. And by those in the diaspora, I'm talking about continental Africans who are recent immigrants out of Africa, and the historic diaspora who are descendants of the formerly enslaved. Those are the owners and inheritors of Africa's wealth. They must have priority to everything African. I would like to remind all of them that when China is looking to give out contracts, they never look outside China. They look into China.
Yeah.
The European nations do the same. All the nations around the world, they do that. It's only African countries that look outside, not only outside their countries, but outside the continent. We, as the African diaspora, we also have blame to show. We have not been organized enough, where when international contracts are available, we are also ready, willing, and able to take those contracts. There's not even a one phone call that could be made to address the African diaspora in a united way. We are disorganized. We need to unite. So when we can then go to the African heads of states and say, we are ready. All contracts deemed international, we would like for you to consider your children of Africa living outside Africa. Give us the first right of refusal. When we are organized, that is the Africa that I'm looking forward to. An Africa that can be so self-sufficient that the wishes of our Pan-African fathers back in 1963, where they had hoped to create an Africa that spoke with one voice, an Africa with one military, an Africa with one currency, an Africa with one stock exchange, one monetary fund, an Africa with one stock exchange, and an Africa with one customs union. Of those wishes that go back to 1963, we have only accomplished one, which is the trade. And we hope that the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area will be a success. It's work in progress, and they need all our support to make sure that that particular issue is addressed. And of course, free movement of people is another area that if the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area is going to be a success, the free movement of people is a must. I do know that it is also another giant that is very difficult in terms of integrating the continent in terms of a single African passport and hence free movement of people. But nonetheless, it is a challenge that must be tackled as a matter of urgency if the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area is going to be a success. That said, I see an amazing continent that is moving in leaps and bounds, an amazing continent endowed with amazing, brilliant, energetic, hardworking young men and women. When we marry them together with their brothers and sisters in the diaspora, it is magic that can be in the making.
Just one more question from me. I have seen Africa shying away from the legal battle with these issues that you talked about, where Africans are treated differently. The African Union, African countries don't fight back with legal instruments. So for instance, when we've got unfair trade practices, we don't go to the World Trade Organization. When we are being asked not to subsidize, the West is subsidizing, we don't go to the World Trade Organization to sue, like what we saw Brazil doing on the issue of cotton. With the issue of sanctions, we keep saying, can the United States remove sanctions? But we never question the legality of sanctions and the fact that people are being punished without trial and taking action as a continent against those illegalities. What's your take on how we can use legal instruments as Africans to enforce our rights and stop begging the Americans, the West, to feel pity for us when there are laws in this rule-based system?
I think that issue goes back down to the brainwashing that we as Africans have gone through the inherent fear of those who don't look like us, the fact that we were made to believe that everything African was bad and undesirable, and everything European was better, and hence our own brainwashing and being trained to feel that when we look and behave more like the West, we are more desirable. So the inherent fear of those who don't look like us, particularly white people, is at the bottom of it all as well. So those people in positions where they should challenge, they are afraid. They do not. It is a serious problem. It's an issue that we must continue to tackle, where we have our rights being violated. Like I just had a meeting with a group of, with a community, a mining community, where they have lots of mines in their area, but the mines are not paying royalties. And the royalties are due going back to the late 50s. The communities, late 50s. The communities are completely impoverished. They still live in mud huts, and yet there are 26 big mining corporations that are refusing to pay 30%. It's a simple, straight case of getting a legal team assembled and assisting them in making sure that these royalties are paid.
Glencore is involved.
But what I'm saying is, you see a lot of that throughout Africa, where royalties are due, where those mineral assets belong to the people. These mines, these mining companies were given the rights to mine on condition that 30% of their productivity goes back into to develop the communities. They've done nothing to develop those communities. These are legal battles that should be, yes, these are straightforward legal cases that
enforce.
It's not even enforced to pay abject. These fees are due, overdue. They're just not paying them. So it's not.
These are billions of
trillions. Wow. Think of 30% since 1958 to this date, and they refuse to pay. So yeah, you're quite right.
It's a rate of about 1.9 billion.
We need to stand up and support these communities and make these multinationals. They need to pay. So atrocities are being committed everywhere in Africa, and we are not standing up, and we are not standing up for our rights. But I blame those of us who are able. We should go after those communities. We should go after these issues, and we should stand up and say what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. Plain and simple.